Hello, my name is Ayan. I'm a second year history student at the University of Oxford, and over the past week I've been writing an article about the crisis in Syria. So it's a really complex humanitarian challenge and is entering a new chapter after the fall of Bashar al-Assad. This happened quite recently, only in the past week, and that's why I think it's pertinent to discuss this topic. So let's look into the challenges and the hopes surrounding displaced Syrians in a world that's increasingly uncertain, and in a Syria where the future is sort of becoming more and more uncertain. Syria is an incredibly diverse nation with many cultures, many religions, Kurd, Christians, Sunni and Shi'ite, and Yazidis, as well as many other minorities sort of living together. And this has been sort of a source of division amongst Syrians. Looking at the Assad regime in particular, which recently fell, as I just mentioned, it's sort of been under serious scrutiny since 2011. This was the Arab Spring, and the Arab Spring sort of made its way over to Syria, and subsequently Syria was embroiled in a bitter and really quite tumultuous civil war. This led to a mass displacement of Syrian civilians. Over 40 million Syrians have since fled their home, seeking safety in neighbouring countries, many going to Jordan, to Turkey, as well as sort of further afield into Europe. Around 1 million Syrians have sought asylum in Germany, many in Austria, and tens of thousands here in the United Kingdom as well. Sort of the issue of the Syrian refugee crisis has been one that has been on the TV screen and on the news for me throughout my life, and sort of throughout me being aware of the news. It's been almost a decade and a half of this refugee crisis, and it's undergone various stages. You sort of look at very early on the Arab Spring, but then the rise of ISIS as well in Syria and in Iraq sort of added a new dimension to this issue, as well as the 2023, very recently, the 2023 earthquake in Syria and Turkey. This sort of made the condition of Syrian refugees more precarious. It resulted in the death of many Syrians and Turkish people as well, and has sort of added a new layer to suffering under a sort of an environmental issue. Despite this, a recent survey has shown that many Syrians had hoped to return. Over a third of Syrian refugees hoped to return within 5 years, and this survey was taken before the fall of Bashar al-Assad. Looking at the news recently, we've been seeing sort of jubilation of Syrian refugees, especially across Europe. There were sort of celebrations in Trafalgar Square, as well as in many cities in Germany, in Turkey, as well as in many of the neighbouring Arab countries that some Syrians sought refuge in. Also, quite alarmingly, quite a lot of discourse has shifted to look at when Syrian refugees will return in their host nations. This is sort of anecdotal, but these are some posts that I've come across on Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter. I quote, "Terrific news for the 45,000 Syrian refugees living in Britain who can now return home. We should do all we can to aid them in their swift journey back." And another, someone poses the question, will millions of Syrian refugees now return to their homeland? Of course, many Syrians have sort of felt happiness in the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime and have seen a new hope in returning to their homeland, perhaps quicker than they had once thought. However, this sort of co-opting of the issue to be of one surrounding migrant return is one that is quite dangerous and amplifies quite xenophobic views. Looking at a tweet published by The Times on the 9th of December, I quote, "German right pushes for Syrian refugee returns. Some German politicians are pushing for the return of Syrian refugees after the collapse of the Assad regime. The country has taken in about 1 million Syrians since the outbreak of civil war in 2011. So, the German far right has sort of risen in popularity over the past few years, especially the party AfD, and almost immediately after the Syrian opposition forces gained control of Damascus, they took this as an opportunity to attack the civilians who sought refuge within Germany. There is a sort of duality in the refugee experience. Over the summer I read a book which I recommend. It's by Christy Lefteri and it's called The Beekeeper of Aleppo, and it looks at a Syrian couple and their decision to leave Aleppo, their homeland, and make the dangerous journey across the Mediterranean, and they eventually sort of seek asylum in the UK. It sort of looks at the difficult decision and how sort of heart-wrenching it is for refugees to make the decision to leave their homes and leave everything that they know in search for safety and in search for security. So refugees often long to return. However, we must look at the reality of the situation on the ground. Syria is decimated by over a decade of civil war, and many people don't have houses to return to. Importantly as well, a lot of these refugees have become sort of citizens and contributing members of the societies that have granted them asylum. They were educated there, they've lived there, they've paid taxes there, and feel as though they're a part of that society. And to so callously use the fall of a dictator as an opportunity to sort of reduce migrant numbers within Europe, I think shows a disregard for the contributions that refugees make to our society. So I think we should really advocate for inclusive policies, Syrian safety and dignity wherever they call home, whether that be in Syria or in their new host countries. And as we react to the fall of Assad, I think that our policies must be guided by compassion, and our actions should be guided by compassion rather than sort of the politicking that we're seeing across nations in Western Europe, Germany not least. Syrian refugees, and their crisis shows sort of immense resilience, and there is a sort of the hope of a safer and a more prosperous Syria now that Assad is gone. However, we must ensure that the issue of safety and security and survival remains at the forefront of our discussions when it comes to Syrian refugees.